Hello and welcome back to the Fighting Talk 2 channel with myself, Mr. Fighting Talk, joined as always by the fantastic co-host of this show, George, over in Casual Corner. How are we doing, George, man?
All good, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Prath, how are we doing, my friend? The eloquent analyst.
Doing good. Hey, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just still reeling off of those fights, man. Kaikara France.
That's it. We've got so much to get through. Obviously, we had UFC 259 last night because we're recording this on a Sunday evening. And it was a fantastic night of fights. For the majority, there was a few kind of crazy decisions that happened. There was a few crazy incidents that happened, as we all would have seen, a lot of controversy and different bits and pieces. And then, of course, we have the most mentionable point of the night, which is the fact that the greatest female athlete and possibly the greatest female athlete, fighting athlete of all time, remained exactly where she should be on her throne. So, Prath, you're going to have a big chunk of humble pie there, picking Megan Anderson, who, as she was walking out, I'm sure both of you saw as she was walking to the apex, walking through it or whatever, she looked completely ghosted. I don't know what happened. Her eyes looked very purple as well. She just didn't look herself. But we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Naturally, the early prelims and the prelims were where the money fights were at, right? There was 50 G's flying all over the place on the early card, and it was an absolute banger. It was an absolute banger of an early card. Obviously, we had Sean Brady versus Jake Mathews, which was a fantastic fight to start. Prath, what did you make of that, my friend?
Destruction and dominance by Sean Brady. We were just talking just a little bit beforehand, and I agree. Like, Sean Brady seemed a little bit hesitant at start. I think it's because of the respect he has for Jake Mathews. Jake Mathews, a veteran of the UFC, fought a lot of the real top guys in both the welterweight division, and I believe he was at 155 before as well. And so he's well rounded, and I think that's a real. I don't want to call him a gatekeeper, but it's a real showing that, you belong in the top of the division at welterweight. So Sean Brady and that back tap, man, holy Jesus, that is something else. I feel like I'm staring at the devil every time he takes someone down. And I'm sure they feel the same way because he is a phenom on the ground. Wow. Like, his control on the ground is just sublime to watch, man. And when he snatched up that arm triangle, the thing with an arm triangle is once you've got that kind of control around the back of the head and you've got that grip, and then it's just a matter of shifting. I think obviously we're going to talk about another arm triangle that happened a little bit later with Islam, and him not even having to go from mount to side control. He was just able to secure it from the mount and to get the tap. And Sean Brady, just that beautiful elevation over the top and just getting that side control. And you could just see, like, the squeeze must be so real. Like, you could see, like, Jake Mathews was shriveling up as he was getting choked out there. So, man, massive props, man. Sean Brady, watch out, people.
And you almost heard Jake Mathews kind of go, He knew he didn't want to be there, and he wasn't going to be there for much longer. It was a very, very dominant performance from him. But as you said, man, he did look a little bit hesitant when he was out there. And another guy that looked very hesitant as well was Kennedy Nzechukwu, who didn't look like he wanted to throw anything for at least the first 4 minutes of the fight. And then he threw a couple of jabs and stuff like that. And George, obviously, Carlos Ulberg was in the corner last week with Crush Corner because he's a good-looking guy. He should have been. He should have been because he's a good-looking guy. I know Askar was in there, but he's not the best-looking in the world, unfortunately.
Hey, props to Sean Brady as well. That's a handsome-looking dude.
There was a lot of good-looking guys on the card yesterday. There was, you got Drew Dober, he looked fantastic as well.
I read as well that apparently he's going for that, like, full-body Japanese Yakuza tattoo thing. He's going to get the whole body done in the end. Mate, that's going to be mental. But, Carlos Ulberg. Yeah, Carlos Ulberg, man. Flipping heck. He looked all right for the first 2 rounds, didn't he? And then he it was like flicking a light switch. He just didn't. He just looked gone, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then Kenny, as I'm going to call him, because I can't pronounce his name. Like you said, he kind of was like, he was quite hesitant, and he doesn't look that great, does he, Kenny, if we're being honest? And then kind of found a way to win. It was pretty bizarre, the whole thing, but wasn't it fight of the night as well?
Really?
Yeah, it was fight of the night. Fight of the night went to those guys, and then I think performance went to Kai Kara France, and who was it? I think it might have been Sean Brady.
I didn't see that as fight of the night, to be honest with you. I thought Ulberg, as we were kind of talking during the fights as well, and Ulberg had everything to lose. He was, I don't know what he was doing either as well. He was obviously holding the arms of Nzechuku and then kind of not doing anything. I was watching going, why are you not working the body? Why are you not working the legs? And he, Nzechuku was completely turtled up, completely shelling up. And then at one point he kind of, Ulberg just went for the body like he was on a heavy bag, just kind of stepping left, stepping right, stepping left, stepping right, just really working the body. And then every now and again, he'll kick the lead leg out, which I thought was a fantastic way to, and Nzechuku's quite a tall guy as well, work the legs, fantastic. But then he just, Ulberg just completely gassed after the first round and a half. And then it was just, he just had everything to lose. And that knockout was absolute bink. That was straight on the money, wasn't it? Absolutely straight on the money. What did you make of the knockout then, George?
Yeah, it's great. What I want to say though about Carlos Ulberg is I think this is going to be what I'm going to call a positive loss. Like although it didn't work out last night, you can go away and kind of like think, well, oh man, I got that really badly wrong, and when he comes back next time, he'll be better off for it. For Kenny, it was a great knockout, but I don't really know where Kenny goes from here, to be honest. Like he'll always be lurking around early in prelims, won't he? Probably. Oh, Kenny, it's a great win because I suppose it carries a bit of weight, doesn't it, Carlos Ulberg? It's like he's part of City Kickboxing, and he's part of the crew, Izzy's crew. That's kind of a cool win. But yeah, it was just I first of all can't believe it's fight of the night, but congratulations to both of them. 50 G's for both of them. Happy days.
Yeah, and that was Ulberg's debut as well.
Ulberg's debut, was it?
It was his debut.
Yeah, he fought on the Contender Series before that.
Yes, yeah.
That was it. I thought he had one fight before that, but yeah, that was right. So yeah, no, that will make it a bit more sweeter on the flight back to Auckland. 50 G's. So yeah, happy days. But yeah, he's got a lot. It's a fair amount to learn from that for Ulberg. But I still think he's got a bit of potential in him. But yeah, definitely maybe like stretch it out a little bit more across the 15 minutes instead of trying to cram it all into the first 6.5.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think coming from City Kickboxing and Israel Adesanya was obviously building him up so much in their little pre-fight thing. It was almost set up for him to win. And
credit to Adesanya. Adesanya gave Kennedy the props afterwards as well, and said, Carlos is very, very good. So for Kennedy to be able to absorb the shots, absorb the leg kicks, and come forward and still win, I got to agree with George. It's such a positive to take out of a negative, right? He looked great, for the most part in those first 5 minutes. He did look like someone that was a top-ranked light heavyweight fighter in the UFC on his first fight in as well. So I think this will be one of those learning experiences. Cardio, Carlos, and everyone really. I felt like that was a little bit of a theme of the night. I felt like Aljamain as well. There's a couple of the other guys that fought on the card that I felt like if they had paid a little bit more attention to their cardio, I feel like they would maybe have not worried about it as much. But once it kicks in, then it's all you can think of. And I think he was too worried about being gassed. And you could see his posture and the way he was kind of moving was very, very evident that he was extremely exhausted. And I think Kennedy just put it on him and he just couldn't recover.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And then obviously the next fight that we can really delve into is the Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinoza fight. And Prath, you were saying before that Tim Elliott usually has his head down and doesn't really kind of engage too much with his opponent during the stare down. But then there was definitely something emotional in this fight. There was, obviously, different kind of TV channels kind of muted out different bits and pieces, but there was a little bit of trash talk about receiving some pictures or something. Prath, what did he say? I can't for the life of me remember.
Yes. So Tim Elliott typically in his face-offs, he's kind of like fidgety, but he looks at the ground, right? So he looks at the ground, but he's quite fidgety, kind of like almost like if you had someone in front of you and you were ready to go, you'd kind of pacing back and forth. And in this particular stare down, he was doing the same thing, but he looked straight into Jordan Espinoza's eyes and soul and wanted to kind of deliver a message to him, which was that I'm coming, this is personal and I'm coming for you. And you could tell that in the fight, right? You know, first round, he just really just put the pace on him super hard and incredible pace, man. Oh my God. Like it was like, kind of reminded me of like first round Colby in a sense that like he was on him like glue. Beautiful setups, you know, takedowns were beautiful as well. And then you get to the end of the second round. And as you get to the last 10 seconds, you hear the clap go. And then once the clap goes, you can see Tim Elliott he's kind of a little bit over him, postured up. I think he was postured up to go throw some strikes. And as he was postured up, you could hear him kind of whisper into just Jordan Espinoza, say into his ear, saying like, I know you're a wife beater or a woman beater. And crazy accusations, right? We'll call them accusations, innocent until proven guilty, all of those kind of things. But, you know, that is a very, very serious thing to have on your heart in a fight, right? So it kind of felt like he took that upon himself to kind of dish out the punishment to Jordan Espinoza. And weirdly, Jordan Espinoza replied. That was the other really bizarre bit. He was getting smashed on the ground. He's being accused of being a woman beater. And he's like, you don't know the story. And it's like, well, I don't think he cares about the story right now. I think he cares about smashing your face in. And I agree. If it does turn out that he is a woman beater, I think he got his just desserts. Maybe should have gotten a little bit more, a couple of more slaps in there. But, you know, I mentioned before when we were kind of doing the pre-fight breakdown, Jordan Espinoza is a journeyman fighter, man. And you could tell that. And it's not only from the way he fights, but his corner as well. His corner, you know, at the end of the second round, as he was about to come out for the third, having completely been dominated for 2 rounds there, was just like, you need to do better. And it's like, that's crap cornering. Like, what, you're not actually giving him anything to go out into the third round and actually do something.
Yeah, completely.
Piss me off, man.
Yeah. But I thought, I thought Tim Elliott was using a lot of very underutilized strikes as well. You know, the forearm grinding, which I've spoken about before on this show, and the blood in the eyes. These are perfectly legal strikes. Obviously, as we know, no hits to the back of the head, no fish hooks, no eye gouging, no crotch punches, no punches to the spine. You know, the general kind of rules of MMA and modern MMA anyway. But you are allowed to forearm grind, and there is nothing wrong with that. And blood in the eyes. Doesn't matter whose blood it is. If it's in your eyes and your mouth, it's going to cause you some discomfort. So obviously, Tim Elliott got a fat elbow to the top of the head, which really opened him up on the hairline as well. And I thought it was a great game plan. And I believe Espinoza had him in it he had one arm into a guillotine, didn't he? But there was just so much blood. It was just so easy to slip out of that as well, you know. But George, what do you make of this whole thing about him accusing him of being a wife beater? And it was almost like he was a vigilante out there yesterday, right? Do you think it's appropriate to take these kind of emotions into a fight and to take it upon yourself? He's not Batman. Do you know what I mean? He's not Batman out there fighting on the streets. This is a fight where he's just getting paid to fight this guy and to win. It shouldn't be emotional. That could have gone either way for him, carrying them emotions into the fight.
Yeah, definitely. It can go either way sometimes because you can get too caught up in the emotion of it, can't you? And then suddenly the other guy who's a bit more ice cold, you know, catches you in it, you know, and you're in a bit of trouble. Obviously I heard like what he was saying to him, but I suppose he kind of got the information pre-fight from somebody. And then, like you said, he's chosen to take it on himself and decide to like have it out of him mid-fight, which is pretty naughty, but you know, fair enough. If, you know, I suppose it is a tactic in a way, you know, but it was just a bit like, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure about this kind of like, if it hasn't got anything to do with you personally, and there's obviously, this is just an accusation, there's no proof to it. There's no like criminal record on Espinoza's like hate, like for him personally. So to like kind of bring it in like mid-fight, it was a bit random, but the whole night was a bit random. So, like kind of just went like it kind of kicked off the night and it carried on from there. But yeah, no, I personally, for me, if I was in that and I'd had that information, I would have just left it and just like cracked like because like I said, all it is it's just accusations. It's just someone's word that Jordan Espinoza's done that. And that's all you've got. So, yeah. But I mean, you know, he won. So what does it matter, I suppose? If he'd lost, he'd look like an even bigger muppet, wouldn't he? But he won. So.
No, Completely, man, completely. And then obviously, moving swiftly on to the next bout, which was your guy in Crush Corner last week, right? Which is the guy that you're very, very high on, and you're looking forward to the rest of his career, George, which is obviously Askar Askarov. And he missed weight by 1 pound, which is obviously not the end of the world, but I believe he's had issues with cutting weight before, and he's had to pull out of fights very last minute because he just can't get down to that kind of weight. But I thought he had an absolutely fantastic performance against Benavidez. Benavidez, Prath, as you were saying before, he's kind of this older generation of fighter. Not to say he's old, but he has a very old style of fighting as well. And he looked like one of these like 1930s boxers that kind of had this very tight elbowed, low hands down, hey, stick 'em up kind of thing. And it was just peculiar to see. And I just felt like he had nothing to give. At one point he did like this amazing jump knee, and it was almost like Macy Barber when she was jabbing from 25 meters away, and he did this jump knee, and it was just nowhere. You just think, are you practicing this? Are you practicing this in the back before you come out? Like just jump knee when someone's near you. Do you know what I mean? Don't expend so much energy on doing absolutely nothing. But Prath, what did you think? Because obviously Askar Askarov is a very, very, very dominant fighter as well. I thought he looked very good on the feet, looked very good on the ground as well. What did you think of his performance, and where do you see him going next?
So, do you know what? I'll leave the Askar Askarov bigging up to young George, but I do want to talk about Joseph Benavidez and his performance. At the age of, I believe he's 36 now, right? Man, taking a couple of real tough losses here. Two pretty much two knockouts against Figgy as well. Obviously the first one didn't make. Figgy didn't get the championship, but he still knocked him out. Second fight knocked him out. Third fight here, he was getting pieced up, man, by Askar Askarov, man. Like, he seems like he gets better as the fight goes on as well. Like, and that's an understatement, right? A lot of people will obviously get better as the fight goes along, but I think one of the things that really makes him stand out against other people is his hearing disabilities as well. He's not able to fully hear his corner when he's in the fight itself. And I think this is obviously a point that you're going to go over, Connor, but I wanted to just say, like, when he's in the corner, you can see he's been communicated to. He's understanding what his corner are telling him, and he's going out and executing. And I think that's, the hallmark of a great UFC fighter. They're taking what their corner is telling them, and their corner is giving him great advice. Is actually like his corner is actually giving him good advice. Look out for this. Make sure you're doing this when this is happening. Like these are key points that the fighter can go out in the next round and actually make a difference in the fight. And he was making those adjustments as he was going along. It was a beautiful fight to watch. And the last thing I wanted to kind of cover with Askar Askarov here is, he missed weight. I think generally when fighters miss weight in the heavier weight classes, it's not as big a deal, right? So, if you are fighting someone at 205 and they come in at 207, I don't feel like that's a mad difference. When you get to the really, really low weight classes, like the 125s, the 135s, I feel like that does kind of make a bigger difference there. And especially, like, you can imagine these guys are sweating to get to 125. And for one guy to come in, and I believe he didn't even take, the opportunity to re-weigh in afterwards. I'm sure one of you guys will be able to confirm that for me. That for me shows that, maybe, this is a good weight class for him because he feels like he has advantages. He's obviously very lean and tall for that weight class. He was able to keep Joe at a really good distance and kind of piece him apart. But that's a concerning thing. And I think it's something that, you think about with Figgy as well, right? He's not able to make the weight at 125 all the time as precisely as he can. And, these are adjustments that need to be made. These are, dietary changes that need to be made. These are, time, the way that they're cutting weight during fight week, these things have to be changed, but you don't learn these things until you go through these processes. So I'm hoping that Askar comes back from this. It was only 1 pound as well, so I don't want to ride him too hard, but I also want to just say that I think missing weight on those lower weight classes makes a bigger impact than missing him in the larger weight classes.
Completely. And if he was to fight for a championship, for instance, he would have to hit weight. And if he's not making weight in these bouts that are, not that they're not important, they're important to his career and important to his legacy, but if he's not making weight on the ones that don't mean as much, then how is he going to make weight when they will mean everything? Do you know what I mean?
And he has to hit, he has to hit 126. He doesn't even need to hit 125. He just needs to hit 126. And he was 1 pound away. Like, I don't know what the decision-making was. I don't know how, drawn out he was or anything like that. I think those are things that we need to figure out as well.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. And something that I tweeted out yesterday about him not having an interview. And the commentators made it very, very clear that he had 70% of hearing in one ear and 40% of hearing in the other one. If my memory serves me correct, that's what they actually said. And to be considered deaf, you clearly need any sort of hearing loss to be considered deaf, right? I just feel like he should have had an interview post-fight. A lot of people thought it was a joke and stuff. That's what I was joking, but he should have had an interview. Whether you have someone that's going to translate from Russian sign into English sign to an English speaking person to whoever, the UFC needs to set those things up, and they need to set those things up early enough so that he can propel his career. Because if he doesn't gain his popularity now, he's not going to be this kind of golden child that the UFC want to have. They want superstars, and they want superstars that have a voice and that can actually, discuss with people. And there's been interviews with him where he's had conversations. He maybe not, he doesn't speak as loud, or he whispers into someone's ear and then they speak for him. However it may go down, he needs to have a post-fight interview like everyone else. I just thought it was a little bit unfair. But George, what do you think? You're obviously pretty high on this guy. And do you think it will be detriment to his career not being able to have these interviews, or not for the UFC not to set these interviews up for him?
I personally think it's proper out of order that he didn't have an interview after his win last night, personally. The thing is, right, the UFC need superstars in this division. Like, this division isn't the deepest in the world. And at one point, like, it wasn't even going to exist. Askarov is a potential superstar in this division, and despite his disabilities, he can still hear in partially, and he can obviously speak, and so he should be given the platform to try and sell himself. Because Benavidez is now viewed as someone who's on the way out, and last night proved that he's on the way out. Askarov completely dominated him for 15 minutes. Benavidez is seen at the moment as this gatekeeper. You've got to beat Benavidez to kind of get to a title shot. For me now, Askarov should just sit at home in Dagestan and wait for Figgy and Moreno to fight it out. And he should now fight for the title. He's completely deserving of that, I think. And I can't think of anybody else that kind of deserves it more than he does. But if you're going to fight for a title in the UFC, you need to have the platform to sell yourself in for that title fight. And so the UFC have got to give him something going forwards. They've got to find a method and a way to get him, visible to people, because a lot of people aren't very visible to him because they can see the talent inside the octagon, but outside of it, you barely hear him speak, and there's not much known about him. As someone who likes him so much and is so high on him, I couldn't tell you a lot about him, and I just go off what I see inside the octagon. But I thought he was brilliant, and I really think that he's a problem for either Figueiredo or Moreno. He looks like he's a typical kind of Russian who gets better and better as the fight goes on, which will be interesting if he was to fight Figueiredo, because Figueiredo comes out so hard and fast. But yeah, no, I thought he was brilliant last night. I thought Benavidez looked like a guy he's done to me. And I actually think that all these young guys coming through at flyweight are going to beat him. People like Pantoja, who I think's 4th, 5th ranked, he beat Benavidez now. It's just, I think it's time maybe to walk away and say, great career, but that's it for me. But yeah, no, Askarov is great. He really is good. He really, really is. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if at the back end of the year or start of next year, we're seeing him fight for the title against either Moreno or Figueiredo.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with his frame as well, I think he could definitely move up a weight. I think that would definitely be an option for him, going to maybe taking the belt at 125, moving up to 135, which is this kind of, everyone wants to be this double champ thing, don't they? And want to kind of collect all these belts and stuff like that. And you're never seen as the GOAT if you don't collect more than one belt, etc. So, no, I think it's a really big future for him.
Yeah, the other one quickly about the weight thing, right? He missed weight, and that stays on your record forever. Even though it was only by a pound, it stays there, and that people will pick at him for that. Oh, you missed weight. I'm surprised that he didn't try and re-weigh in with just the towel, because that potentially knocks it off. I'm amazed that he didn't take the extra 2 hours and try and knock the pound off. Obviously, we don't know quite how what situation he was in. Going forwards, though, if you are going to fight for a title, I think Figueiredo's done this. He's got himself a hell of a nutritionist team to get him on the mark. Ashcroft's going to need to potentially look at something like that because clearly, I think this is the second time he's missed weight now. He's going to need to look at that going forwards because if you are off the mark in a title fight, that would then be devastating for him. So going forwards, maybe look at finding a way to get yourself down so you're literally bang on the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone does want to listen to us talking about weight cutting, we did an episode a few weeks ago with Brian Mad Dog MMA. Check that out because we go into that whole little realm a little bit deeper as well. And especially when, like Prath said, when you're cutting down to such a low weight, that 1 pound is sometimes you just don't know where you're going to get it from. You know, he can't even shave his hair off because he hasn't got a lot, you know. And I thought Benavidez looked very, very drained on the scales as well, but obviously he made weight. I felt like his face looked very drawn in. I didn't feel like he looked very well at all. A little bit like Megan Anderson didn't look very well, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Obviously, a fight that you very much enjoyed, Prath, was the Kai Kara France bout, right? Talk to us about what you thought was going on there. I mean, we were messaging obviously all night, and it was just an absolute crazy moment. Prath, you're obviously the BJJ guy, and then all of a sudden BJJ does not exist to this guy, right? And then a beautiful finish from Kai Kara France with the all on the right hand, overhand, uppercut, overhand, just to completely fold him like origami. Tell me, man, what did you think?
Oh my God. Guys. Oh my God. Kai Kara France said, F your jiu-jitsu, man. Oh my God. I mean, like, I'll give Bontarin the credit he deserves, man. He was styling on Kai Kara France on the ground. You can't take that away from him. You know, obviously he got up, he was tired, he ate those shots. No one can recover from taking multiple shots on the chin like that. And, you know, he's no exception. He might have a great chin, you know, whatever a great chin kind of dictates. But, man, like his ground control was incredible. And I was literally just before the knockout happened, I think I was about to send you guys like the emoji with the love hearts and the eyes, just at the style. And he was DC had a really good comment. He said he was riding him like a wave, which was like, I thought that was really apropos. Like anytime he would positionally kind of get up or move, like Bontarin was right there in the right position, in the right transition to just continue to control him. But that's one thing. The other thing we need to talk about is Kai Kara France's jiu-jitsu defense. Holy S. Like, nothing can be taken away from that, right? His hand fighting was incredible. Like, there's actually some of the better hand fighting I've ever seen in MMA, jiu-jitsu, kind of, you know, in that ground game kind of realm in fights in general. Like, he managed to, and against someone who is a very credentialed black belt, was able to get the hand control, was able to break the grip. You know, he was getting himself in that rear naked choke position and was just able to fight it off. You know, you got the hand behind here. He was able to kind of break the grip here, move the hand across, and then try and fight to another position until he eventually got up. So, man, all credit to Kai Kara France's defense. I think that is a big thing. And then as soon as they got back up on the feet, even for me as someone who loves jiu-jitsu and loves watching jiu-jitsu, like that first round in general is like what I love about jiu-jitsu. When you're styling on someone, when you're riding them like a wave, the control was beautiful. But nothing can be understated and nothing can be taken away from a gigantic knockout. And to see someone get folded as well is just insane to watch, right? So yeah, Kai Kara France finally gets up, he starts circling around a little bit, and you could tell as soon as he got up, as soon as he was able to shake him off, I remember in my head being like, go on, Kai, let's go. Okay, come on, got him off now, let's go. And as soon as he got back up, he was throwing punches immediately, like. And he wasn't just throwing like one or two punches. He was throwing like 3, 4, 5 punches at a go just to see if one would land. Cause he knew he was losing that round, maybe even a 10-8 round. You know, judges went a bit crazy in this night. I'm not going to lie with some of these 10-8s here, which we'll definitely discuss later on in the card. But that for me would have definitely have given him a 10-8 round if he managed to get out of that. But man, Kai Kara France again said, F your jiu-jitsu and FC in the rest of this round. And just put him out, man. It was beautiful to watch. I love the walk-off as well. I think he was justified in the walk-off. The dude face planted. Like, I think there are very few times where like it's a real undisputed reason for you to have a walk-off KO, and Mark Hunt is the king of the walk-off KO. And I think Kai Kara France kind of just channeled some of that inner Mark Hunt in him, and he was just able to throw that beautiful overhand and knew it was done. And I love it. It actually reminded me of his when he I can't remember the gentleman he knocked out, but on the Ultimate Fighter, I believe it was his first fight on the Ultimate Fighter, he did the exact same knockout, like pretty much face planted the dude with an overhand right, walked off with the celebration where he's had his hands out like that, run around the octagon. Like, I'm so happy for him. I've been a big fan of Kai Kara France in that since that Ultimate Fighter fight, and like he's had a little bit up and down. He even he didn't get signed on to the UFC after the Ultimate Fighter, which I thought was a big disservice. Ended up going to Ryzen, fighting a couple of guys over there, and eventually made his way over, and even still had a bit of an up and down career so far. But man, that was beautiful to see. And the other big thing, we were talking about Amanda Nunes having a kid, and this is a point that I wanted to make. That was, it might distract them or make them better. And in this case, man, proud papa Kai Kara France came out and just put it on him, and he would not quit. That's the beautiful thing. He did not quit. There was not a single moment in that round where he was like, I'm giving up here. And a lot of guys, once they get their back taken and they've got the body triangle sunk in on them, they often just go, okay, well, I've lost my battle here. He did not give up. I'm so happy to see that he didn't give up, and he just came back with just fireworks at the end, man. Love it. Absolutely love it. One of the few times especially in the last while, where I've literally I had to get up from my bed with my hands on my head and just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I had my heart racing like crazy.
It was mad to see as well. It was mad to see someone get dominated so hard in the first round. And then I think he knew as soon as they went back to the feet that he had the advantage. And as you know, 5 minutes of rolling on the ground and constantly attacking positions, attacking different submissions, it wears you out. It burns your arms out as well. Both of them as well. Like, Rogerio's going for the choke constantly. Kai's trying to defend them constantly. That's his hands. His body must have been tired from having that body triangle applied to him pretty much that entire round as well. Like, man, you cannot speak for the heart of Kai Kara France, man. What? And it was a little bit, and I think new parents actually went three for three yesterday. So, yeah. With the ones that we actually know that announced that they had children recently, they went for 3 for 3. So, I said this before, and especially about Nunes as well, like, oh, having a kid's going to, is it going to change the way she's talking? No, it's not. Don't assume. And the whole promo, we're going to get to Amanda Nunes later, but the whole kind of premise before the fight was, oh, she's had a kid. Is she still going to be fighting? What's she fighting for? Blah, blah, blah. Everyone needs to shut up and sit down. And I said this yesterday, man. Everyone needs to shut up and sit down. Having a kid that, will it affect some people? I'm sure it will. Will it affect these professional athletes? Probably not. Anyway, I thought it was a bit of a strange end to the round for the Kai Kara France thing. Obviously, after he knocked him out, he had the walk-off thing. Like you say, he drew on the legend that is Mark Hunt with the walk-off knockout. And then Rogerio got up, obviously, threw his mouth guard at him, and I think Herb Dean didn't know what was going on. But George, what did you see, man? Because it was a bit of a crazy finish, and Herb Dean obviously pulled Kai Kara France away. He ran around the octagon, did a little lap, and then it was almost like he was coming back to land this kind of hammer fist from hell. But then he obviously didn't need to. But what do you think happened there? Because Rogerio obviously thought that it was maybe he was coming over to taunt him or something about the loss. What did you think happened?
Yeah, so basically just quickly, obviously I'm gonna call him Roger because I can't pronounce his Brazilian name. So Roger is his first round was good and then I think what happened was Kai Kara France screw this, I'm not going back on the floor again. So I'm just gonna absolutely nail him. And then we got to the where it kind of finished but kind of didn't. So he folded him up like a deck chair. And then he was like, right, I've finished him. He's on the floor. So he starts going off on like a little run around, on a run. And then when he turns back around, old Roger's standing back up again. And it's like, oh, well, he's not standing back up. He's kind of woken up a little bit. He's like, oh no. And Herb Dean at this point, he's like in and out, isn't he? He's in and out. He's like, oh no, what do I do? Do I stop it? Do I not? Do I stop it? Do I not? And then suddenly, like a freight train, France is coming back over again. And he's like, oh no, I think that's enough. And at that point, then Roger's not happy because Roger, I think, got a bit annoyed because I think he thinks he was going to taunt him. And that's when the old mouth guard came out, chucked it at him. Oh man, I was in stitches. I was laughing my head off. The whole thing. Herb Dean just didn't know what he was doing. France was in and out. Roger weren't happy. It was an absolute car crash. But the whole night at times was an absolute car crash. So again, on my theme of car crashes, it's carried on. It was an absolute mess. But I don't think Roger's got anything to complain about. He got folded up he flipped, like Prav said, he was face planted on the floor. He got absolutely clipped, and he was on the floor with his face on the canvas, folded up like a deck chair, and he was gone. It was done. So yeah, it was a weird ending, but I rather enjoyed it. It was entertainment value at like 2:30 in the morning.
Definitely, and obviously this wasn't even the main event of the prelims. And it was such a huge card. And then we obviously had the legend that is Dominic Cruz came back against Casey Kenny. And that was a fantastic bout, and I thought Cruz looked very, very good with his little figure eight footwork and stuff. I thought he looked very good as well. I felt like at times he was rolling a bit too deep into Casey as well. But Casey obviously didn't see that there was that kind of like knee opportunity or uppercut opportunity was there. I thought that was a great bout. I thought it was a great bout for Dominic Cruz to come back as well. And obviously, as the commentators were saying, he hasn't taken loads of damage over the years that he's been active. And he kind of had 5 years away over the past 7 years, I believe it was. So he's kind of not had that many bouts, as we spoke about, obviously with his plantar fasciitis and numerous surgeries that he's had. But Prath, how did you see that going down? Because obviously, I think Casey was obviously the favourite going into that bout, I believe.
Where you at, George? Where you at? Where are you at? Casey Kenny fan.
Hang on.
Hang on.
You can slaughter me for Casey Kenny all you want, but in a minute, we're going to get to Megan Anderson. And that...
Hey, man.
that will be harder to live down.
Hey. The Megan Anderson thing was just me trying to be like you. Yeah, I just wanted to be a casual guy, make a casual pick. Don't I just thought I'd add some humor to this. Of course, Amanda was going to win. We all knew, but... okay, let's go back to Dominic. All right. Screw it. Let's go over Dominic Cruz though, because I do want to highlight my guy here, man. My guy. Wow. It was, do you know what? More so than anything, that was the biggest fight where I had the butterflies for. I had big butterflies during the Izzy fight, but for me, obviously, how much Dominic Cruz means to me and how inspirational he is, not just as a fighter, but just as a human being, the way his mind works is incredible, man. But I got to agree with the Connor here. Some of the times when he was using the figure of a switch stance style, there was a few times where he kind of leaned into Casey Kenny, and Casey was very close to hitting him with a few shots, head kicks, things like that as well. So, definitely something he has to work on. I feel like obviously he needs to have a little bit more repetition in the cage to just really finesse that style that he's got going on. But man, and you said it beautifully, right? He's been, in the 7-year period, he's been out for 5 years. And because of the way he kind of fights, he is able to avoid a lot of damage, head movement, incredible head movement, revolutionary head movement. I would even throw it out there and saying, and created his own style, man. And that's something that's very, very evident. You look at any other fighter on this card, I would say the two people that have the most unique style of fighting, Izzy and Dominic Cruz on this card. In terms of just their diversity, what they kind of bring to the table and things like that as well. So, but do you know what? I will give Casey Kenny credit, man. I think that was a really good fight for Dominic Cruz to have. A tough dude. It was a split decision, whatever those judges were smoking. Can I have some? That was a crazy, crazy split decision. But I will say, you know what? Casey had really good movement in general. I really, really enjoyed. He was baiting Dominic Cruz in quite a lot, and I think Dominic Cruz was biting on a lot of his feints and was kind of getting out of the way prematurely. And then Casey Kenny kept throwing. He had a wicked leg kick. Oh my god, he kept snapping Dominic Cruz's leg back, and it was very, very bad. There was times where his leg almost kind of went the other way. He would get kicked, and instead of his leg kind of just moving back, it would kind of go to the side. It was bizarre to watch, but you could just tell Casey Kenny has got disgusting power in those legs. Watch out for those head kicks from Casey Kenny, guys. He's coming to throw some fire. Dominic Cruz as well, with the very, very strange call out afterwards. I genuinely thought it was a joke. I thought he was just doing it as a joke. Poke fun at the Monster guy. I know he's been a long time, he's been sponsored by Monster for a very, very long time. During all of his injuries, I would say from like 2014, he's been sponsored by Monster through all of his really traumatic injuries and stuff like that. So I thought it was a joke, but apparently it isn't. So I'm very interested to see what happens there. Very much Dominic Cruz could have called out pretty much any bantamweight and got that fight. Like, he could have called out TJ Dillashaw and they would have lined up Dominic Cruz versus TJ Dillashaw if they really wanted to, right? But he chose to call out the dude that works for Monster that seems to sponsor everyone. So very bizarre post call out. Not too sure if I agree with that, Dom, but everything else was money up till then, man. Like, I loved the head movement. The feints were amazing from him, and just like great combinations as well. Like, I think Dominic's quite used to throwing like maybe one punch and then getting out of the way, or one punch and a kick and then getting out of the way. But he was putting combinations together, 3-4 punch combinations with that awkward style where he's kind of in and out and shaking it all about. Love it. Love to see it. Can't wait to see who he fights next. I'm hoping that he's learned from this fight in particular. Getting pressured the way he was against Casey Kenny cannot be happening against any of these other bantamweights. He needs to be able to implement his game a little bit better. And that's what you saw against TJ Dillashaw. It was kind of like they were kind of like butting heads against each other rather than TJ kind of dictating the pace of the fight. So love to see Dominic get to a little bit more of that, but man, cannot be more happier.
It's funny you should say about the Hans Molenkamp thing, because ever since I've gotten into MMA, and I've always seen this guy. I've always seen him, and I've just thought, what does he do? Who is he, and why is he here? He always seems to be with all of the fighters and that kind of stuff. And the UFC are very, very good at brushing over these political kind of things. I watched the post-fight presser, and one of the journalists said to Dana White, what happened with Tim Elliott and Jordan Espinoza? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And then and then obviously the hands thing with Dominic Cruz, he was like, oh, okay, we're going to have to speak about that. Monster have always been very good. And, Dana White is almost like looking at his, like the people in his ear and the people on his shoulder and stuff, saying, don't tell him anything. Don't tell him anything. It's like the Azatar thing. They just kind of brush over the fact that he's taken a random bag and he's, got all these wristbands and stuff, whatever the whole thing was. And it's all just
potatoes. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't.
It was potatoes in his bag.
For what?
Potatoes were in the bag.
What? Cooked potatoes? Raw potatoes?
Raw potatoes.
Raw potatoes, and all he wanted to do was he wanted to have dauphinoise during fight week. That's what he wanted. He wanted to get a nice little dauphinoise potato going, and
literally, he's not joking.
That's what
he's not joking. And apparently, Azatar during the weigh-ins, Azatar apparently ran into the media room and like went, "Ha ha, I'm back," with a bag in his hand, and then ran off.
Man, he's mental, that kid.
It took 3 weeks for this to come out.
Yeah,
so
it was. I think it was his manager, Ali, was the one that told everyone that it was potatoes.
Yeah,
but, you never really trust Ali Abdulaziz as well. That's another thing.
But why are the UFC not addressing these things straight away? At the end of the day, they are a business and they need to protect themselves as a business. But,
hang on a second.
Dominic Cruz calling out the guy from Monster, I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And I felt like it was jeopardizing his sponsorship. For someone that hasn't fought so much over the past couple of years as well, he's just predominantly been an analyst and doing the commentary and stuff like that and doing the breakdowns. When it fades away and it's got him in a gym doing, Israel Adesanya does this and this is how he does it, blah, blah, blah. But, if someone's paying your bills and paying for you to live in a nice house with a nice car and stuff, just do it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's my view anyway. If someone's paying your sponsorship and stuff, and he said about standing next to a Lamborghini or something, stand next to the car, bro. Do what you have to do to put money in the bank and to put food on the table, But George, what do you think, man?
Just quickly on the fight, obviously Dominic Cruz definitely won two rounds to one. Whatever the judging was for the Casey Kenny one was mind-blowing. And also the judging got a bit weird later on in the card as well. So we'll go over that. But yeah, I thought Casey Kennedy's going to watch this back and go, I missed out on opportunities here, because there was definitely little bits of opening where I was like, oh, and it just didn't quite happen for him. But he'll learn a lot from this, and he's going to be a big problem for some people in that division. He's going to kill some people in that division because he's got legs like tree trunks, and he's going to kick the living hell out of people, because that leg from Dominic Cruz was starting to get a bit beaten up. But but Dominic Cruz definitely deserved to win. The call out for Monster is weird. It is bizarre. I didn't get it. It was quite funny, and it carries on with my theme of a crazy night, because it was just like, what? Like, what? I kind of went with it because I thought it was quite funny. And then the thing I was going to say was that I think the UFC have to be careful about double standards sometimes, because they're like, we should talk to Dominic Cruz about Monster because, you know, Monster sponsor us. While I'm just going to use the example, there's probably loads of others, but when Colby Covington was going around being a massive racist, like, and then Dana White was like, oh, you know, it's free speech, he can say what he wants. Like, it's kind of like, come on, man. Like, you can't pick and choose who you're gonna tell what they can say and what they can't say. So if he wants to ruin Monster, he should be allowed to ruin Monster. You know, I understand that, you know, Monster pays bills, so maybe he should, you know, wind his neck in a little bit. But, you know, Dana's always been about free speech, you know, like, and letting people say whatever the hell they want. I mean, he's you know, and so don't say that he can't do that and then that person can do that, you know. But anyway, whatever, you know, the fight with the Monster guy won't be happening. I don't think anyway. Although if it does,
it almost reminded me of the Brock Lesnar thing. Prath, you'll probably remember this from many moons ago when Brock Lesnar after the fight just said, "I don't like that beer. I'm going to go home and drink another one." And then in the post-fight presser, he was like, "No, I am going to go home and drink a Bud Light or whatever the hell it was." And he kind of retracted everything he said. I just think
I can't remember what the other beer was, but he said like he was going to go drink the other beer and get on top of his wife, and then he got to the post fight and he was like, no, guys, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have Bud. Bud's great.
Yeah, it's so funny. And I thought that would happen in the presser for Dominic Cruz, but when Joe Rogan was like, "You've gone a bit political here," I mean, we've all seen the JRE. Do you know what I mean? We've all seen how political he gets and the kind of things that he speaks about to people and stuff like that. But obviously, he's got people in his ear. At the end of the day, all these commentators and all these people, they're all doing a job, and they've all got people above them that are telling them what to say and why to say it, and you know. They just have to do it. They're puppets at the end of the day. You know, they have a very, very small amount that they can actually say and they can, you know, put into. But then the other 90% is editors, producers, and, you know, screenwriters and stuff like that. It's almost like being in the WWE, as we did another show on. There is a whole massive room of people that are deciding what people have got to talk about. And, you know, it incites a conversation. And then the next two fights we can obviously speak about were complete sleepers, in my opinion. If I was at home, I would have slept through them because it was just boring. I thought that Santos did not look like Santos should. I thought he looked very hesitant as well. Obviously, there was lots of questions about his knees and the surgeries that he had after the John Jones fight. And he's obviously been away for a very long time as well. And Ratchik didn't look very special. I thought that he was going to come out there and look like, you know, gold plated or something. But George, what did you think, man? Because it was a bit of a sleeper fight.
Yeah, definitely a sleeper fight. I really like Rakic. I think he has shown a lot of potential. It was kind of like one of those classic kind of like, I know you can knock me out and I know you could, you know, so they kind of like just counteracted one another and didn't really throw a lot. When you look at Rakic, though, you look at him and think, Christ, that is the biggest 205er I've ever seen. He's ginormous. And so you'd think that if he decided to kind of like get a bit heavy, to say it like quite like casually, you know, that he would cause damage to anybody, you know, and especially with like, he said it after the fight, he knew that Thiago Santos was coming off 2 knee surgeries. So it's kind of like, well, then why didn't you like beat him up a bit more, like with it on his legs? Like, why just not do that? It's like and we spoke about his leg kicks prior to the fight. Like, it was a bit bizarre, but I suppose a bit like after we talked about the Cyril Gane fight, you know, a win's a win. You get your money, you move up the rankings, and from Tuesday onwards, you'll be able to say that you're number 2 ranked in the world now. So, although it was a sleeper, I suppose he got the job done, didn't he?
He did indeed. And then the second sleeper on the fight on the fight card was the Makhachev versus Dober fight. What did you see about that Prath? Because Makhachev, there's so many different ways that I heard it being pronounced yesterday, but he just went in there and he did a very Khabib-esque style and kind of grinded out the finish as well at the end. And obviously Dober was very, very tired. And you spoke a little bit earlier about the submission there. But do you think that these kind of people, although they will continue to win and they will continue to grind out their opponents, but do you think it's a good thing for the UFC to have these kind of people? Or do you think that we should have just a light dusting of superstars that have got these fantastic highlight reels? That wasn't a highlight reel fight. Did he gain followers yesterday? Did he gain popularity? Probably not. But what do you think?
I mean, I would very much argue that, because I think, he did fight in a very Khabib style, literally like watching Khabib. Like there has never been another fighter I've watched I've been like, this is literally Khabib 2.0. So I do think he appeals to a certain audience member, whether that's me, you, or George. I'm not too sure. For me, definitely, I love the control. I'm very high on Drew Dober as well, right? I think Drew Dober, incredible physique, man. Holy, like he comes in, like he must have like less than 2% body fat. Like he is shredded. And I think and he looks powerful, man. So to see Islam Makhachev control him completely and not give him a single inch of space was impressive, because that Drew Dober can explode out of those positions in most cases. But Islam's legit. He's only had one knockout loss in his record, and that was against Adriano Martins back in the day. But he looks incredible, man. And I it's going to be very hard to match him up, man. It's going to be very, very hard to match him up in this lightweight division. Not many people are going to be knocking at the door trying to get an Islam Makhachev fight, unless, you're crazy like Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee was always, for years, trying to call out Islam Makhachev. I'm not saying that's a great fight. I'm just saying that Kevin Lee is one of those. I'm not saying, Kevin Lee's going to get dominated, but like he's always like that. There's only like one or two guys that will ever call those kind of guys out. And they're brave for doing so, because that is literally like a guaranteed loss on your record. It looks like he's kind of like Khabib, guaranteed loss on your record. The arm triangle was beautiful. I will absolutely give him that as well. Finished it from the mount position, which is very, very difficult. That shows that he has got a hell of a squeeze on him as well, to not even complete the full, the full transition of the side to go to the side control and have that full on control. He could almost put his knee on the belly as well, and that gives him like complete control of that arm triangle position. But no, he did it from full mount, which is very rare. I've only seen it maybe once or twice. I want to say Sage Northcutt got submitted that way, like back in the day. But other than that, I've never really seen that. So very impressive. And there was actually, I did actually just want to highlight one last guy on the prelims that we kind of missed out on here. Kyler Phillips, man. Kyler Phillips, the Matrix. Put it on Song Yadong, who's a great prospect, man. Kyler Phillips, incredible stand-up, great spinning kicks, great head kicks as well. Song Yadong just didn't look like he had much of an answer for Kyler Phillips's attack and his God, man, like the volume of attack as well was just very impressive. But yeah, Islam Makhachev, incredible. Khabib, do you see how I just transitioned there? It's beautiful. Islam Makhachev, incredible on the ground, man. He is Khabib 2.0. Good luck finding this guy an opponent. Good luck to the matchmaker. Sean Shelby, you've got a hell of a job in front of you.
Just quickly on Makhachev, in terms of like his like suit, like people like being interested by him, like perhaps we might not be, but Russia is such a big market for the UFC, and they get behind their fighters so hard that Russian like audience like alone will be enough to carry Makhachev through probably. The only other thing I want to say about him was I wasn't quite sure about him until last night. And like you just said, it was like if you'd fallen asleep and woken up, you'd have thought Khabib was fighting. It was like, it literally looked the same. It was crazy. And then the last thing was, I really loved the fact that he called out Tony Ferguson and said, yeah, basically because Tony Ferguson's been dodging Khabib, I'm going to do it for my brother. I'm going to take him out, finish him. I was like, man, these Dagestanis are crazy, man. They're flipping crazy. I'm not, did you ever hear DC on the Ariel Hawani show say that if Makachev got to a title fight and lost, that would get Khabib to come back because he'd be like, I've got to like avenge my brother's loss. And I was like, these boys, man, what is wrong with them, man? They're just crazy. But Makachev, he's going to be like ranked in like the 10 to 15 bracket, and he is, let's be honest, a top 5 guy. Let's be honest, he is. So, yeah.
Definitely. And then that brings us up to obviously the 3 title fights that we had on the card as well, which were humongous. And the first one I want to speak about is the Piotr Jan versus Aljamain Sterling fight. I was very, very upset. I thought Piotr Jan looked very, very good throughout the first couple of rounds. Obviously, it was a bit back and forth. Was it 2-2 going into the 5th or 4th or whatever it was? And it was a very evenly matched fight. Aljamain Sterling came out. He looked very, very quick. He was bouncing around a lot as well. I know we were obviously speaking about the amount of energy that he was expending throughout the beginning portion of the fight. He looked very jittery, very nervous as well. I felt obviously between rounds, Ray Longo was giving him lots of great advice and, calm down, you're doing good, etc. And then we got to the point where Aljo was slowing down and Piotr Jan kneed him in the face. Obviously, there was a bit of confusion because the referee said that, I told him that your hands were down and stuff like that. And Joe Rogan made a point of, listening into what I believe it was Mark Smith. Was it Mark Smith, the referee? Was saying to Aljamain, who was obviously on the floor. And this goes back to a point that we've spoken about quite a few times with regards to the commentators staying in their lane, right? They were making lots and lots of noise with regards to what should be happening. I don't think it's their decision as to what should be happening. The ref gets paid to ref the bout. The ref wants to bring the doctor in. Joe Rogan's screaming, saying this should be stopped, this should be stopped, this should be finished, etc. Cool. Keep your opinions a little bit less unbiased, a little bit more kind of evenly spread throughout, both options that could be happening right now. The ref's going to do what the ref feels is best to do at that time. But Sterling had one foot on the floor. His knee was up. He obviously lifted his hands up. I feel like if there was another couple of seconds, maybe he would have attempted to push off of that right knee to then to not have any knees on the floor. But there's no excusing it. There's no excusing what happened. And Jan looked at his corner and said, can I hit him now? And that was obviously spoken about post-fight as well, because they were speaking Russian, and Khabib said, they asked him if he should hit now, and they said yes. So it's a bit crazy, and obviously Aljo did not want to win that way, and I think the odds on him winning via disqualification were pretty huge as well. No one would put any money on that, and it just goes to show how much of a car crash that these kind of huge shows can be, as George was saying earlier, that so many things go wrong and so many things can happen. And this was just a series of car crashes throughout the whole night. But should they have an immediate rematch? Yes. Maybe vacate the belt so no one has the belt, and then do an immediate rematch, and you can go from there. So no one walks away from it a champion, because in my opinion, personally, giving the belt to someone that doesn't want to win the belt in that way is disrespectful to them. And because he didn't want it, and then he threw it on the floor. So it's almost disrespectful saying, here you go, you won because you got kneed in the face by the other guy who shouldn't have done that. It's just frustrating. But obviously Dana said that they will run it back straight away, which is good. And on a positive note, that when Aljamain Sterling went to the hospital and got seen by the doctors and everything, there was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't concussed. There was no lasting damage to him. But, it just goes to show there's kind of different ways of looking at it. If the ref hadn't have said, I believe someone said that he was down on the scorecards during while he was on the floor as well. So, do you take that win, or do you take I don't know. Prath, what do you think, man? Because we kind of see different things here. We were obviously speaking about it last night live as well. And I don't think that anyone should have the belt. As I say, it's disrespectful to either person to give the belt to anyone. But what do you think? Obviously you think he should have won, right?
Man, I don't know how I feel. It's kind of, it was one of those ones that really like took the wind out of my sails after such a crazy night of fights. You know, watching Dominic Cruz, who's someone I love, like watching the Kai Kara France fight, I was on a high as hell. And to have that happen, like Aljamain Sterling is someone that I picked him in the pre-fight. I picked him to win by submission. I thought he was coming in with what would end up being Peter Yan's biggest test. Peter Yan, from that second round onwards, was absolutely incredible to watch. Absolutely incredible. Did every smart decision making up until a point, but with his
little back leg sweeps, they were fantastic.
You know, we were worried about Aljamain Sterling taking down Peter Yan, and Peter Yan took Aljamain Sterling down multiple times, man. I loved that back sweep. Yeah, they kicked out his back legs and took him down a bunch of times. And really weird, you know, almost like Aljamain Sterling was like throwing like an almost incomplete spinning elbow. Like he was throwing like half a spinning elbow and then Yan would just take his back and then trip him, and then he's on the ground now. And that happened like 3 or 4 times. So I was really, I was surprised that Aljamain kept going to that well, trying to come back with that same attack again. But let's talk about the finish, man. Let's talk about the finish. You know, I'm going to take into consideration, obviously, like, you know, Yan, it's where do you place the blame, right? You don't want to place it directly on Yan's shoulders because, you know, I think when I feel like he would take the majority of the blame here because he's the one that threw the strike at the end of the day, right? But when you're in those moments of combat where your mind isn't thinking about the safety of the individual sitting in front of you and you're going full bore, you're expecting your corner to give you good advice so that you can get through that situation. Whether, you know, Sterling was on the ground or Sterling was on the feet, like your coach is supposed to give you advice that helps you progress the fight forward or to win, right? And what happened there is you saw just really poor decision making. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it was more than that. It's really mixed. Like some people are saying that the corner told him to throw the kick. Some are just saying that they told him to throw a strike and they responded with yes. So that for me is also a little bit of a weird one because we don't fully know what they had recommended to him. Because again, some people are saying tell him to throw the kick. Some people just say hit him. And we were making a good point yesterday of when a grounded fighter is there, like your decision-making and throwing kicks against punches, I think is an important thing, right? So when you've got someone in that position, like I don't understand why you would even think about kicking. You would just want to punch, right? Because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to hit him either in the side of the head or in the back of the head. And if that's the case, then we take a short break for a couple of minutes and we regroup and fight, right? Taking a knee the way that Sterling did, and it's crazy. I mean, I'm not surprised because MMA Twitter is a very toxic place for the most part. But people discounting that Sterling, you know, took a way out here, he took the knee and he could have carried on and things like that. Absolutely effing not. You see, taking a knee full on like that in a grounded position from someone standing above you is just destruction. And you could see it on his face. He was lying back. He couldn't sit up properly. He couldn't get up. He looked, and then in between all of that, you know, he's quite clearly concussed, but also he's dealing with the emotions of potentially winning a fight, not in the terms that he wanted to. And I got to agree, Connor, like, I don't think this is a situation where you put the strap on either. I think you take the strap away from Yan. You got to give him a punishment for throwing such a reckless strike, but also like to not disrespect almost Aljamain Sterling and the effort that he put in. I think John Jones actually made a really good tweet, which was, you know, Aljo came in great shape. He was walking forward the entire time. Credit where it's due. He was walking forward the entire time. I wouldn't say he was winning, but he was walking forward the entire time. And, you know, it's not his fault that he ate that strike. But what happened there is, it's just, you can't recover from something like that. And it's hilarious that John Jones is the one chirping when he did that to Anthony Smith. And Anthony Smith could have taken, no, it wasn't even an elbow. It was a knee strike, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a knee strike to Anthony Smith, but the 12-6 that he did all them years ago as well.
On Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
My dude, you've had multiple fouls. Yeah. You can't be saying anything. Yeah, man, really, really tough, man. I was heartbroken for Aljo as well. Like, you could see like the disappointment on his face. Processing that whilst also being concussed must have been surreal for him. And I don't think the interview afterwards was apropos. Even if he felt like he was up to doing it, I just felt like that's a really bad opportunity to take someone's very raw thoughts, whilst also being on a street that he doesn't know the name of, which is a phrase that Brock Lesnar uses quite a lot. I love. Yeah, man, just really disappointing, really disappointing. You know what? There was room there for Aljamain Sterling to have a bit of a comeback in the end of that. He could have had a little bit of a comeback at the end of the fourth into the fifth and showed out and been a phenom. And we'll just never know right now. But I agree, the rematch is needing to happen. Sorry, I've waffled on here, guys, but it's just something I feel very passionate about. And I'm gutted for Aljo because this isn't the way that anyone wants to win their championship and be remembered for that, right? He doesn't want to be remembered as the first fighter to win via disqualification. Who does, right? So yeah, overwhelmingly sad for that situation.
Yeah, I felt that Jan was looking very, very good as well. Like after the second round, as you said, he was looking very, very... He was looking like the champ, you know, he was making a lot of smart decisions. And then obviously the pinnacle of that was him making a very terrible decision. But George, what do you think this does to Jan's legacy? Obviously, he's a very dominant fighter. He looked very good yesterday. He's looked very, very good in the past when he's beaten people like Jose Aldo, for instance, and Uriah Faber. What do you think this does to his career moving forward? Because you know, John Jones can be considered the greatest of all time by some people, but he obviously has the 12-6 that he performed with Mark Hamill, as you said, Prath, and he obviously has the knee, which was a little bit more controversial to Anthony Smith because it was against the side of the cage and his knee was up, knee was down. There was a bit more to it, whereas this was a very blatant foul. But George, what do you think this does to his future and to his legacy?
That's an interesting question, the legacy. I suppose we'll find that out when they run it back, what it will do for his legacy. Because if he was to go on and then lose the fight, which they're clearly going to make, then I suppose he'll be forever remembered for that, really. If he comes back and, you know, convincingly beats Sterling, then I suppose he carries on, he cracks on. There are big fights to be made in that division. Sandhagen, Dillashaw, and they move on. I mean, he'll always be with him. It'll always be with Jan will never be able to. It'll always be, oh, you're the guy that did that to Sterling and like in a title fight. So what amazes me though is that Jan, like, it's like he didn't know the rules. Like he was asking his corner, shall I hit him? It's like, don't you know? Like, don't you know like what you should and shouldn't be doing? Like that was the thing that kind of got to today when I've been thinking about it. That surprised me that he was kind of like, oh, he's got his knees on the floor. I've got to wait here instead of just cracking him with a knee to the head. It was like, that was surprising to me. And it was also surprising to me that his corner then said to him, yeah, but obviously maybe there's a lost in translation problem or whatever has gone on there and that's caused it. But to the fight itself though, I thought Aljamain Sterling looked good first round. I then thought he started to look nervous and panicky. He looked really kind of like, he looked a bit all over the place at times, I thought. And classic Petr Yan was getting better and better and better. He was starting to really wind up. And I was like, when the incident happened, just before, I was like, this is it now. Aljamain Sterling's starting to lose this a little bit. Jan's taking over. He's going to do what he always does. He's going to find a way to get it done. Classic Petr Yan. But my opinion on what should have happened is that I don't think anyone should have the belt. I think it should have been taken away from Jan, not given to Sterling. The UFC come out and say, look, this has happened. Both guys want to run it back. We'll run it back. It's for the vacant bantamweight title and we'll go from there and we'll just crack on, basically. They'll give whatever time is needed to Sterling, whatever time is needed to Jan. We'll get it going and we'll go from there. But it's gutting for Sterling. You didn't want to win it like that. You know, it's just a weird kind of position to be in. You're the champion, but you weren't winning the fight, and you kind of won because you obviously had the illegal blow. I also think about Jan in this situation, like how Jan feels in a way. Like he must feel like a bit of an idiot. Like he must think, oh man, what was I doing? Like I know, what was he doing at the end? Like I just think that there needs to be, and I'm kind of pleased that he's kind of come out and been a bit more humble and apologised and said, look, I've got it wrong. You know, I want to fight Sterling again, and we'll go from there. But just a weird kind of like series of events, and it's like a bit like Prafi just said, like it's kind of like hard to kind of like get your head around it all, and when you like think about it really. But I suppose the only way forwards is to get them both back in the cage whenever they're ready, and let's go again, and let's just at that point, then once that fight's done, you've got the decision, move forwards, whatever way that is, you know. But for me, in terms of the fight, for me personally, Jan was well on his way to winning that. He was looking like he was really going, like he was really hitting full steam. So to land that blow must be like, oh, what the hell am I, like, what am I doing? Like, you know. But yeah, it was a weird series of events. No, I wouldn't have called that. I wouldn't have called that in a million years.
And I just wonder what the disciplinary process is. Obviously, if you're in a large company, you work in an office, for instance. If you arrive late 3 times, you get a disciplinary action, blah, blah, blah. It goes to getting a suspension, et cetera, et cetera. But these guys are fighters, obviously, and they're going in there, putting their life on the line and stuff. And when something like this happens, do they have disciplinary action? Is there a right? Obviously, if they get done for PEDs or get done for EPOs, whatever you want to, any sort of drug-related things, then they get suspended. And then, obviously, Habib and Conor both got suspended with the jumping out of the cage thing and the throwing the dolly at the bus thing and stuff like that. But, Prath, what do you think? Do you think that UFC should be, having some sort of disciplinary action on these kind of things that are so blatant, especially with this being such a blatant foul? Obviously, Mark Smith said he is a grounded opponent. What do you think? What's your views on the disciplinary action, the disciplinary process that the UFC has?
First of all, I just want to say that I thought you were going to say, like, oh, when you work in an office and you just go and knee a guy in the face, you get disciplinary. Yeah, of course you do.
Gross misconduct, that's what you get.
Hey, that's GBH, mate. You go to prison for that. Do you know what? That is a fantastic question, a really interesting question, because I do feel like, I don't know if there is a way of punishing someone for that. I think they're so in the moment that it's very hard to make, entirely smart decisions. That's kind of what we rely on the corner to kind of deliver to their fighter a lot of the times. Mark Smith did clearly shout that Aljamain was a grounded fighter, and then the strike happened just after that as well. So I do agree with calling it an intentional foul. It was very much, for me, it felt like an intentional foul. Do they deserve a kind of disciplinary process? I feel like when it comes to PEDs and things that really affect their career, I feel like those are the things that we should be disciplining them for, like a TJ Dillashaw. Like, I don't think TJ Dillashaw should be able to come back and fight for a number 1 contender fight or a title fight, but he is. That's bizarre. That's bizarre to me. I don't think he deserves to fight Corey Sandhagen. I think Corey Sandhagen deserves to fight for a title after these two settle the score. I think that Dana White can take into consideration a little bit, and I think maybe speak to these guys. I think, he's such a powerful person with such a powerful opinion and influence over these fighters. I think it's something that he needs to really, like, sit down with someone like a Petr Yan and go, okay, hey, like, let's go over what happened. Let's understand from your perspective what kind of went down there. Do you feel like it's something that happened with you? Is it something with your corner? And just to give him advice. He doesn't need to necessarily discipline them in any way, but I think he's someone that can give out great advice when he wants to. Sometimes he's very childish, very emotional. I think Dana White can be very much guided by his emotions, right? But I think he can be very diplomatic as well at some points. And I think, someone in the post-fight presser asked Dana White, would you have that conversation with Joe Benavidez? And he said no, which I think surprised a lot of people. So when he says something like that, that actually has gravitas, that actually means something to some people, right? And I think sitting both of these guys down, not together, but I think sitting down with these guys individually and just kind of understanding from his perspective what happened, what could have changed, what could have been done differently. It's happened now. I think there's no point of like sitting here and going in the past. He didn't kill him. Thankfully didn't hurt him really bad. That's definitely a life-altering hit that he's taken. He's definitely, I would not be surprised if he's concussed at still right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he's sitting in Las Vegas right now with a concussion. It's going to take him a bit of time to bounce back from this, but I don't think there should be a disciplinary process. But I do think that the Nevada Athletic Commission should be able to review this, and at least if they don't discipline, but at least come to like a like a let's close the book on this. Let's see who should be culpable for the blame of this.
Or even,
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, or even like a three strikes kind of method of throughout your entire career in the UFC. Most large companies got a HR department, right? Human resources, and if you do something once, they go, right, we'll have a little telling off here, slap at a wrist or whatever. It's a verbal conversation, and then you have a written conversation, and then you have a witness in the room and that kind of stuff. We know the processes. I've had this with lots of my employees and lots of my staff as well over the years. And you kind of have to go through a political route to do it. But to have no repercussions, I feel is, you could knee someone in the face every single time and all of a sudden, nothing with no repercussions at all. But George, what do you think, man?
Without sounding like really simple and almost stupid about it, in a way, he has had repercussions. He lost his belt last night. It's like a simple fact. If anything, he's already been disciplined. Like, he lost his belt instantly as soon as it happened. Like, and I don't care what anyone says, that's gonna hurt. Like, you're a world champion. You're the top of the pile in the world, and because of your stupid error, which has caused damage to somebody else, you lost your belt. Like, I bet that hurts more than anything else. So, if anything, the discipline's already happened. Then you start to get into like a rabbit hole of questions. Well, if he's lost his belt, should he now fight for the belt straight away again? And all these kind of questions. You end up in like a minefield of like what should happen. It's difficult. It's really difficult. Like, I'm glad I'm not the one deciding it. But yeah, I feel like in a way he's already been disciplined. He's sat in Vegas right now. Like, everyone thinks he's an absolute knob, and and he's not champion anymore. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really know what more you can say to a guy. What more can you do to him? He's lost his belt.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense, man. And obviously there was a lot of depth, so many different angles to look at that fight as well. The next fight was obviously a little bit more clear cut. When the GOAT remained the GOAT, she is the greatest of all time, and she looked so dominant going out there. There were so many questions. Will the height of Megan Anderson be a difference? Will the fact that she's just had a kid and all this kind of stuff we were speaking about earlier? But none of it mattered. As soon as Megan Anderson felt the power of the lioness, she did not want any more of it. I felt like, Amanda Nunes finished Holly Holm with a kick. Holly Holm is the kicker. She finished Ronda Rousey with punches. Ronda Rousey was the taekwondo lady and all this kind of stuff. And she's finished people however she wants to finish them. And Megan Anderson went out there with a very big challenge in front of her. And she was a huge underdog. I mean, this was the biggest underdog I think I've ever seen. And there was a reason for that, because Amanda Nunes went out there and she could have pieced her up any which way she wanted to. She was hitting her on the feet. As soon as it went to the ground, she completely dominated with her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and she got her in a double entendre of, right, if I don't snap your arm, I'm going to choke you out of my legs. Do you know what I mean? Prath, it was just a beautiful, beautiful performance. I actually thought she looked a little bit high on the back as well, but then obviously transitioned straight into the triangle as well. And then she thought, do I want to choke her? I'm just going to break her arm. Why not? But she just looked absolutely phenomenal, and I think someone actually put, it would have taken her the same amount of time. No, it would have taken her longer to change a nappy than it would to finish Megan Anderson. And I thought that was an absolutely fantastic way of looking at it, because, she's a mum now. Now she's changing nappies. Is she going to want to fight? Is she going to want to train? It doesn't matter. She went out there and she just got a massive payday to support her child, to support her wife. And she just looked fantastic and solidifies the fact that I think that she is the greatest of all time, defending her 145 belt for the second time, I believe it is. And now they're looking at turning her around super quickly to defend her 135 as well. But Prath, tell me, you obviously went for Megan Anderson to be a bit of a wild card in there as well, just so you could gloat or you can eat the humble pie. But what do you think, man?
Okay, so this is a little bit of a calculated move. I couldn't manage to find any pie, but I am going to eat some humble bun. I thought that would be the closest thing that I could get to a pie, and I am going to totally eat this afterward. But wow, even from the walkout, I just felt like Megan Anderson wasn't there. She wasn't there. I thought that James Krause, before she was about to come into the octagon, James Krause gave quite a long speech compared to most people. When they're just about to jump into the cage, they give them a quick handshake, a hug, good luck, tap them on the fist or whatever. But James Krause stood in front of her and said some real poignant words, and like looked her right in her eyes to make sure she understood it. And then she went in there and got absolutely smashed. Holy. Amanda Nunes is the best. She was the best before this. I felt like Amanda really took that throne when she beat Chris Cyborg. When Chris Cyborg was defeated, when she knocked her out, that was when Amanda Nunes will forever be known as the GOAT. And this is just like icing on the cake, really, here, just to show how powerful she is, how dominant she is. She could have played with her. She could have played with her for 5 rounds if she really wanted to. But I think it was like the 3rd or 4th big punch that she landed wobbled the hell out of Megan Anderson, and then just the back control she threw the leg over to get the triangle position, but it was from like almost like if you were to put someone in the spider web armbar position, like you're about to get it, you got both your legs controlling their upper posture, and then you're about to like lean back into the armbar, but instead of leaning back into the armbar, she triangled her legs and started choking her from behind. Like that was bizarre. I don't know if I've seen that in MMA where they've been choked like almost like they've taken the high back and then they've thrown the leg over this way and then done the triangle from here. It was beautiful to watch. And the armbar that came after it looked insanely painful. Her arm was about to break. Her arm was easily about to break. And I know, women are a little bit more flexible and are able to kind of fight out a lot of those positions. No, she wasn't about to fight out that position. She was about to get her arm snapped or get choked out. And she decided she had to tap. She had to tap because there is no way out. That is one of those few positions. There is no way out. Sometimes when you're in like we watched with Kai Kara France, right? Kai Kara France had his back taken. He was getting rear naked choked all over the place, but he was still able to defend, get the arm off here, get this hand control here. There was no way out for Megan Anderson. Oh, sorry, Megan Anderson, which is something that also just confused the hell out of me. It is like she had Meee Gun Anderson. Amazing performance by the Lioness, the mother, the GOAT, the best of all time. I don't care what you want to call her. She is by and far the greatest female mixed martial artist of all time, just from a skill standpoint. And you know what the other thing as well is, it really shines a light on the people that were able to defeat her before, the Cats and Garners and things like that, right? But that's what most people believe, right? But it was only after those fights that she really ascended from a skill level wise to where she is now. I think like she really hit her peak before the Miesha Tate fight. And then from the Miesha Tate fight onwards, she has just been destruction. And every single time she is getting better and better and more confident, more tactical. Like she could have done that to a Raquel Pennington, right? But she went out and had a technical fight. She took her all 5 rounds because she knew that she could. And she knows she can hang there. She took down Jermaine Durandamy and rode her out for 5 rounds because she knows she can. She could have knocked Jermaine Durandamy out on the feet. I feel like she could have knocked out Raquel Pennington on the feet, but she is making these smart decisions to really take the most out of every fight, right? She's knocking Ronda Rousey out. She's choking Miesha Tate out. She's knocking Chris Cyborg out. She's ultimately beating all of these people in their own departments. And I'm not saying that Ronda Rousey is a phenomenal boxer or a striker or anything like that. She's got incredible judo, but she just had no answer for Amanda. And that was just beautiful to watch, like watching someone just not know what to do. They've got someone standing in front of them, aggressively moving forward. And she's like, whoa, let me just back up and run away from here. And man, I just don't think there is a woman alive that is going to be able to even give her a challenge. And I know there is incredible talent out there. There is Clarissa Shields. There is Kayla Harrison. There is, Chris Cyborg again, if you really wanted to. Like, there are people out there that she could get matched up with, but do any of these ladies give her even a smidgen of a challenge? I don't think so. Even someone like Clarissa Shields, who is an incredible Olympic boxer with an incredible pro boxing career as well, she won't be able to do anything to Amanda. Amanda will just take her down and grind her out. Like, she won't be able to do anything, and I don't think any of these women will be able to do anything. I'm wondering who Amanda Nunes trains with women wise. Like, I'm sure she trains with a lot of dudes, but like, who the hell is hanging in the pocket with someone like Amanda Nunes as a woman in ATT? I don't think it's Joanna Jędrzejczyk, because Joanna Jędrzejczyk would not be able to survive these punches. So I'm really interested to know who Amanda trains with, who's her training partners. I'm hoping she's not wailing on Nina Ansaroff, or Nina Nunes now, as she's known as. Great couples therapy, I guess, but I'm just really interested in that. But man, just mind-blowing performance, incredible, loved it. She's the best.
And obviously, the 145 division is very, very shallow. Megan Anderson, I doubt will ever be able to make 135 because she is 6 foot. She's a very, very tall lady. And, who's her bounce back fight from here? Where does she go? Who does she go away and fight before she can make that contention for the belt again? And even if she does fight back for the belt, is she going to win? I don't know. I think it goes the same way as the first fight. But, George, where does Megan Anderson go from here? Obviously, with it being such a shallow division, does she try and, I don't know, cut half her leg off to try and make 135? Or where does she go? Does she leave the promotion and go to a promotion that has a lot more female fighters at 145, maybe even 155? Where do you think she goes from here?
It's difficult, isn't it? I don't know really where she goes from here. I don't think the UFC have got too much to offer really going forward. I mean, like Praf just said, people like Kayla Harrison are coming along, but she's probably still a couple of years away. Clarissa Shields is going to give mixed martial arts a go. And if mixed martial arts was, you can just stand on the feet and there's no takedown, Clarissa Shields might be actually quite good because she is an unbelievable boxer. But it's going to take years and years to improve that kind of ground stuff. So she's miles away from being any kind of competition. I guess she leaves and goes somewhere else. Where that is and what she does, I don't know. But, last night was the opportunity. I don't know. There's not really much to say on it, to be honest. Amanda Nunes is the GOAT. She's the best female mixed martial artist to ever do it. It's pretty simple, isn't it? As soon as the first punch landed, it was over. And that was it. There's nothing really else to say on it. I've said Nunes was going to win. And as soon as the first punch landed, it was just like, oh yeah. It was just like, oh yeah, sweet, cool, right. Let's move on to the main event, the title fight. It was nothing, was it? I'm not taking anything away from like Amanda Nunes or Megan Anderson, but it was just like an idiot on the street could have told you this was going to happen. Like a casual could have told you it was going to happen. Like, you did. I did. I told you it was going to happen. It was so obvious. And then I was even more convinced though when Megan Anderson got to the apex last night. I was like, she looked terrible. I was like, she's had a bad night. Maybe she should have had a few wines like Paulo Costa to calm her down. But yeah, I don't know where Megan Anderson goes from here. I don't know where she goes from here, to be honest. Is Megan Anderson even all that? Is she even that good?
No.
I don't know. I just don't know. I just feel like whoever goes in with Amanda Nunes is just unfair. I think that's what I've got to now. It's actually cruel. And people will do it because you probably get a nice payday out of it. But it's just, what's the point, man? Why would Chris Cyborg go back and do it? Why would, although she probably won't because she's at Bellator now, but why would she go and do it? That's stupid. The only person that potentially makes sense, and it'll go, and that won't be at 145. I said this before, is Valentina. That's the only one that makes any kind of sense. For me, it's the only challenge left. But she's obviously she's already beaten her twice. When I say it's a challenge, it's not really. But that's the only person who in my mind I can go, well, maybe if all the cards fell in the right way, she might beat Amanda Nunes. But apart from that, nobody else is going to do it. So Amanda will just continue to reign supreme until she decides that she's had enough and she wants to live out her days being a mum.
Exactly that. And you know, I thought it was lovely to see the respect between the ladies as well. Obviously, she brought her little a kid in as well, and Megan Anderson went over and was like, "Oh, hello." You know, I thought that was really sweet. And I think there's 9 times out of 10 there's so much more respect between the female fighters than there is between the men. And that respect carried on into the main event as well. Obviously, with Izzy versus Jan Blachowicz, there was a lot of respect between these two guys. Even in the post-fight presser, Izzy was very, very, applauding the performance that Jan had. And I thought that he was biting on absolutely every single feint Izzy was throwing. Izzy would blink, and all of a sudden Jan was throwing his hands up, and he just didn't really know what to do at some points. But I felt like he controlled his distance very well. He had his Blachowicz blitz every now and again, but he wasn't blitzing in as much as he usually does. He was very hesitant with regards to jumping in. Obviously, Izzy's a fantastic counter fighter, as we spoke about in the pre-fight breakdown as well. And I felt like both of them used their range very well. Izzy never managed to get too many huge shots off. And then the last 2 rounds really were the tail of the tape with regards to how Jan won the fight. And apparently there were a couple of 10 out. I think one was a 10-8 round, or maybe both of them were 10-8 rounds. I'm not sure. I didn't see the scorecards, but
two in the 5th round were 10-8s.
What a load of
2 of the judges.
What a load of
10-8s. Wow. I mean, that's crazy to see a 10-8, and Dana White obviously spoke about it in the post-fight as well, and just said some of these refs need to have some sort of repercussions with regards to their decisions, especially when you see a 10-8 and you think a 10. We've seen 10-8s before, and in the past couple of weeks we've seen some fantastic cards, and we've seen some serious 10-8s where you look at that scoring system and you go, wow. You know, from the first 10 seconds they were taken down and they were dominated for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. That's a 10-8 in my opinion. But you know, I thought it was very competitive on the feet. And then Jan had 20 pounds on him. You know, I saw on various social media outlets that he was maybe 25, maybe 27 pound bigger. And if naturally, no matter how good you are on the ground, if you're fighting someone that's of an equal skill in a certain discipline, it goes to the person who has the most weight, right? And that's just how these things work. But Izzy walked away very, very unscathed as well. He didn't look like he had too many injuries or too many blemishes on his face. Neither did Jan. And I thought, you know, Jan Blachowicz, he seems like such a lovely guy. And I thought it was so funny afterwards when Izzy said, "Oh, you were my bodyguard," and then Jan said, "How much are you going to pay me to be your bodyguard?" I thought that really cracked me up in the post fight. But it was a fantastic win for Jan. And yeah, what do you think, Prath? What do you think? How do you think it went down? And obviously it was a very clear win. But where does Izzy go from now? And then George, where do you think Blachowicz goes from now as well?
So I'll take it first, and Ben, it was a very tactical fight. I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of people who are a little bit more casual fans, no offense here, George, but will find that fight to be a little bit more boring. Hey, no, I know he enjoyed it. It's all good. I think like a lot of people will see that and go, okay, well, they're not throwing like mad strikes at each other. They're playing a slow game here for good reason. They both know that they can knock each other out. I think they both have a lot of respect for each other, and I think that's a very important thing. Like when you look at someone like Alexander Rakic versus Thiago Santos, I don't think it's a respect thing between them. They just know they can knock each other out, so they're very hesitant, and that's something we talked about in the pre-fight breakdown. Is that's a possibility for that kind of fight. I didn't think that this fight would. I think I wasn't expecting this fight to go to a decision so much, but I did think as well that Izzy had a great counter style for someone like Blachowicz, who, for the most part, is very much a blitzing power striker, right? So he kind of almost wades in with 3-4 punches and hopes one of them lands. And, you know, you don't really want to have that kind of style of fight against someone like Israel Adesanya, who's throwing, you know, question mark kicks and knees from all angles, right? Incredible performance by Blachowicz as well. Like, I think that is going to be a key star-making performance for him to really elevate him, and that's what's going to kind of give him that next level of I wouldn't say superstardom, because I don't think Jan really cares about superstardom. I think he just wants to come in, fight, make enough money for his kid to go, you know, university and have a good life. And I don't think he cares about being a superstar. But I think he's really, I think one of the big things that he cares about is respect. And I think both of these guys earn mad respect from each other. And I see this fight going down in maybe like a year or two. Izzy getting a couple of wins down at middleweight again. You know, Izzy's obviously talked about Darren Till getting getting a couple of wins here or a win, and potentially matching those two up. The other people that really make sense for Israel are, you know, but these are guys that need to come off of wins. So, you know, like Kevin Holland, Marvin Vettori, Rob Whittaker obviously is sitting at the top of that heap there, but has already, you know, faced Israel. So I don't know how interested Israel is in that rematch. I think if Rob can really push it, then that will be a rematch that people will want to see. And the one last thing I wanted to kind of go over here is the judges. You know, I don't really like, you know, 10-8, call it a 10-8, call it a 10-9, whatever you want to do. Like, obviously it's their decision, it's their opinion at the end of the day. There's no, here's a book format for the judges to give a score. It's their own subjective opinion on what they saw in the fight, right? But I really wish there was some way of giving these guys some culpability, right? Like, the other thing I've always really wanted to see was maybe, like, you know, when there is a poor decision in the cage, like, I don't know if there was a referee. I can't think of a specific time where a referee's really messed someone up. But, like, let's look at the Aljo situation, right? The Aljo Peter Yan situation. I would have loved to have seen Mark Smith in the post-fight press conference sit down and tell us what he, you know, what was he experiencing? What did he see from that perspective to call it the way that he did? I'd love to see the judges be able to have that as well. Like, you know, when there's a really poor decision, like, which one was the split decision? That was the Dominic Cruz one, right? The Dominic Cruz split decision, like Saudi Amato, like, what are you smoking? Like, can we go to the post-fight press conference and sit down with someone like Saudi Amato and go, okay, what made you get to that decision? Like, what about that fight made you believe that Casey Kenny won that fight? Because everybody else, literally 99% of everybody else, is thinking Dominic Cruz has won that. So that's another thing. And not just to say, you know, it's just a crappy split decision. Like, why did you give the fifth round a 10-8? Give me an example of another 10-8 that you could comparably say that to, right? And then here's another, you know, like if Bontorin didn't get, if he managed to keep control of Kai France, that's a 10-8 round. And I believe that's a 10-8 round, right? He controlled him through 3/4 of that round. You know, it's only right at the end, you know, Kai France only won with 5 seconds left to go, right? If he was able to just hang on there and hold him down, that's a 10-8 round. Let's figure out why these guys are making these decisions and what is leading them to believe that. Is it, and maybe there's a re-education process here that needs to be done. Looking at different judges as well, I think is so important. Like, I think one of the big things is that's been talked about over the years is getting ex-fighters to be judges. And I think that's the best option. You know, look at someone like a Chuck Liddell. You know, he's had maybe a lot of brain damage over the years from taking these crazy fights, not in like a jokey way. Like, obviously he's, you know, his last couple of fights, he got knocked the hell out, right? That's going to leave a lasting impression in your life. But it will also let you know what that person inside the cage is feeling as well. And I think you couldn't find more relatable people than like a Chuck Liddell, maybe not a Tito Ortiz, but like Saudi Amato. Like, show me his boxing record, show me his mixed martial arts record for him to be able to sit there and give the knowledge. And I'm not saying that every single ref or judge needs to be a mixed martial artist and have competition, but I think that's something that is important, and I think it will allow them to relate to people, to relate to these fighters a little bit more.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And also the education of the fans as well. If you were to have a referee or a judge or something sit there and say, look, I did this because of X, Y, and Z. I gave it a 10-8 round because of this. The fans are maybe not necessarily seeing. And then the fans would leave going, wow, I didn't realize that they took that into consideration. Next time I'm watching a bout and these things happen, I will be able to judge it at home with a better, you know, with a better
understanding.
With a better understanding, with a better view of what you're seeing. And that would then educate the fans. The fans would then become almost more hardcore fans because they're invested in it, you know, and then we could all do it at home and be like, wow, look, this was a 10-8 round because of this. But then do they want to give too much away? Then people think they're referees, and then people go, oh, well, I've seen Mark Smith do 20 interviews. I know how to ref now. And there's so many different ways of looking at it, but I completely agree with you with regards to the accountability. And it would be lovely to see a ref and a judge, even, Sal D'Amato next to Mark Smith, and the two of them sit next to each other and say, well, I saw this, I would have given it to this, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And then it would just open so many doors of conversation for fans and for the media as well. We'd be able to ask so many questions and so many in-depth questions that we would all be thinking about.
I just wanted to ask you both a question as well, and it's something that came up in the post-fight press conference when it was fielded to Izzy, and I'd love to know what you guys think of open scoring, right? So you look at someone like Izzy in that 5th round. If he knew that he was down in the scorecards, does that change his trajectory in the fight?
Yeah, 100%.
Are you in favor of it? Or so like, I know that some of the, like Invicta, for instance, they tell the corner and then it's up to the corner to tell the fighter if they want to, or do you think it's just like, it should just be on like a screen and that everyone can read it?
I think it should be on a screen personally. But what do you think, George?
It's interesting. That's really hard. That almost feels like I need to think about it, whether it should go to potentially to the corner or go to a screen.
Maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Absolutely, I think it would.
I can see benefit. I can see benefits for both on an open scoring thing. I can see benefits of both, but yeah, in terms of I don't know, but in terms of like the fight as a whole, like I don't get the 10-8 round. Like blows my mind in that like fight. But, like the first thing, like I love the idea about getting like a referee and a judge like to be interviewed, but there's one problem with that. Nevada State Athletic Commission are never sanctioning that. Never once are they going to let a judge sit in front of the media and answer questions. It's never going to happen. That's the first problem. The second one is 10-8 rounds to me are when someone gets absolutely nailed, right? So my thought process immediately goes to round 4, Holloway Cater. That's a 10-8. Like Jan Blachowicz and Izzy last night, that wasn't a 10-8. He had control for most, like for a fair amount of the round, but it wasn't a 10-8. But anyway, so the judging has to be called. You have to call it out for what it is. It was rubbish judging, but there we go. The fight as a whole, though, didn't surprise me as much as I thought it has done. Now I've thought about it. Like I thought it would. Like I'm a little bit surprised about Izzy in the sense that Blachowicz, I think, nailed it on his interview. He kind of said that he was more taken aback by his power than his speed, and I did think at times Izzy looked a little bit slower. I was like, there's times where he'd like get in and he'd get out and he would have like had 4 or 5 punches on the guy, and then the guy would be like, what, like didn't even know it happened almost. So that surprised me. The takedowns won the fight, though. That's if the takedowns hadn't have happened, we'd be talking about Izzy being champ because he would have probably done enough on the feet in the last couple of rounds, and he would have won the fight. So the takedowns have won it for Jan. But I like the respect from the two of them. They both clearly. I always wondered when Izzy lost because I thought he'd lose at some point. How he would react. He's quite a brash and in your face kind of guy. I wonder whether he would take it quite badly. And actually, I was quite pleased to see him go, look, I lost to the better guy, and like respect to Jan, and it's all good. And I'm going to go back down to middleweight and do my thing down there. And perhaps I'll come back up at a later date and go from there, So, but, fair play to Jan. He kind of, what I thought in the end, he kind of, I think it was mentioned in commentary in the 5th round, like he looked like he was blowing Jan. He looked like he was like, starting. I thought, Izzy's going to see this. Izzy's going to get him. Like this is going to be a problem. And he got the takedown and controlled it. And he fought the fight well, man. You can't take it away from him. He did really well last night, and he was completely deserving of remaining light heavyweight champion. Izzy goes back to middleweight. There's fights there for Izzy. Rob Whittaker, if he destroys Costa, they'll be all over that for a rematch. I know we were laughing earlier about Darren Till, but Izzy basically tells the UFC what he wants in that division. So if Darren Till goes and beats Vettori and comfortably beats Vettori, and then Izzy goes, I want Darren Till, they'll make it happen. Vettori, the rematch for Vettori potentially is another one. Kevin Holland's obviously on a massive run, so that's a potential fight. For Jan, it's going to be Glover, isn't it? It's going to be Glover next. And he deserves it, Glover, doesn't he? 100% he deserves it. And then...
Legend.
Yeah, man. If he comes through Glover, he's got about 4 youngsters who absolutely want to kill him. So he's got a bit of, I'm talking about Rakic, Prochazka, Ankalaev, Jimmy Crute, possibly even Dominic Reyes if he comes back and starts to put wins together. There's a lot of guys hanging around that division who could be a problem. And just quick, the last thing that could happen for Blachowicz is if it doesn't work out for old John Jones at heavyweight, he might be back down to have another fight, have a crack at trying to win another belt at light heavyweight. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of fights for Blachowicz to look forward to at light heavyweight.
There's so many fights for the fans to look forward to as well in the next coming kind of year, 18 months, 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. There's just so much happening. Prath, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say that John Jones destroys Israel Adesanya. Like, I love Israel Adesanya so much. Like, I love the bravado. I relate to him a lot, anime, all that kind of stuff. John Jones destroys Israel Adesanya and takes him down and just mauls him. I cannot see Izzy being able to get the skill level up necessary to defend the takedowns and defend on the ground. I just think John Jones takes him down and submits him.
And the other thing as well, last night 100% confirmed this genius idea of being a free weight champion isn't going to happen ever. Heavyweight will never happen for Izzy in the UFC. So, and that's fine. And it's kind of cool. He gave it a go and it didn't work out last night, and it's fine. Fair play for giving it a go. Go back to middleweight, continue to beat everybody. I presume he'll probably do that at middleweight, and just that can be a legacy. The best middleweight to do it.
He's only 31 as well. Like, he's got years ahead of him, like, to get back to light heavyweight. And who knows that, at 31, he's kind of built perfectly for middleweight. When he gets to 35, he'll be built perfectly for light heavyweight. We just don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. If someone could pass us that crystal ball so we can see into the future, we'd really appreciate it.
Izzy's legit though, man. He's still one of the best. He's still one of the best in the world. There's no doubt about it. Pound for pound, one of the best. And he'll be back. He'll be back at the end of the year, arching somebody probably.
Just the final point from me before I close out the show was the commentary was completely whack as well. The commentary was completely off point last night from the majority of the evening. I felt like the commentary was very, very biased towards one person. And I didn't really enjoy that too much. But that is a conversation for another day. As always, thank you so much for making it to the end of the show if you did. And thank you very much for listening. If we spoke about weight cutting, so naturally, if you want to go and watch our video on weight cutting, head back to the Fight and Talk 2 channel on YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter or on Instagram as well. Find us on Spotify, Apple Music. If you're on Apple Music, leave us a review. Spotify, tell your friends, tell your family, and all those good things. Comment, we love that kind of stuff. We also did a GOAT conversation as well. Obviously, we've been speaking about Amanda Nunes, who would be considered one of the GOATs. We did a GOAT conversation, which is a never-ending conversation, but naturally go back and have a look at that as well if you want to jump on that topic. But for now and until next week, thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, Prath. We are the Fight Talk 2 team, and we look forward to seeing you next time.